Tim Stout, how a pro MMA career paved the way for real estate success. This time I had the pleasure of chatting with Tim Stout, former professional fighter turned real estate mogul. Tim's journey is nothing short of inspiring, and I can't wait for you to dive into our conversation. Tim, also known by his fight name MOAB, Massive Ordnance Air Blast, which is an Air Force and Army term, earned the title for his explosive, powerful presence in the ring. The nickname reflects his intense fighting style and the impact he had on opponents. Tim began his journey in martial arts at age 7 and went on to become a professional MMA and kickboxing fighter, eventually competing in Strikeforce. With a pro MMA record of 16 wins and 10 losses, including 8 knockouts, 3 submissions, Tim's career was forged in real competition. Today, however, he's known not just for his fight record, but for building a thriving real estate business, grounded in the same discipline and drive that fueled his years in the cage. As Tim grew up, his passion for combat sports expanded into tough man competitions, venues where he could test himself against untrained but determined opponents. But after one humbling session with a jiu-jitsu instructor changed everything, leading Tim to train seriously in the art and ultimately go pro. Despite his success, Tim recognized the limitations of a long-term career in combat sports. The physical toll and a financial uncertainty, especially while running a gym, pushed him to make a bold pivot: real estate. Quote, "You can't teach tough," end quote. For Tim, toughness is about mindset. It's the ability to take a hit, literally or figuratively, and keep moving forward. This combat sports mindset became his greatest transferable skill. In business, just like in the ring, setbacks are inevitable. Tim credits his success in real estate to the same principles he used in fighting: staying calm under pressure, showing up consistently, and pushing forward even when things get hard. Confidence isn't just a feeling, it's something earned through repeated exposure to discomfort and challenge. Tim's training philosophy is rooted in realism and development. For kids, he recommends boxing as the foundation. It builds confidence and helps them learn to manage fear and contact. He also values wrestling as a dominant control-based discipline. For adults, though, particularly women, Tim stresses proactive, decisive action in dangerous situations, focusing on targeting vital areas like eyes, throat, and groin. And then for law enforcement, and keep in mind he trains all these different genres in his gym. For law enforcement, he advocates for training that bridges the gap between sport and survival, equipping officers with practical hands-on skills to reduce reliance on weapons and improve outcomes in the field. Today, Tim splits his time between leading one of the region's top real estate teams and running his gym, Independent MMA and Fitness in Newman, Georgia, where clients between 20 and 55 train not to hurt, but to learn. His advice spans far beyond the mat. Be proactive, build confidence early, and never underestimate the power of physical and mental preparation. So from the dojo to the closing table, Tim Stout's life proves that real-world resilience is the ultimate transferable skill. Connect with Tim on the show links below. Click on those. He's on Instagram. His self-defense site is The MOAB Stout. The real estate is Tim Stout. Facebook, check out that name, Tim Stout. Same with YouTube. And his real estate website, realestateblackbelt.com. And the gym website, Independent MMA Fitness Newman.com. Check out the show links below. Thanks for watching. I'm Damien Porter, former New Zealand Special Forces operator, subject matter expert from HowNotToDieGuy.com. And you're listening to my Straight Talk Mind and Muscle podcast, sponsored by State, the ultimate daily formula for optimum hormone health, stress management, energy, and performance. 100% natural and clinically proven ingredients. Provides everything you need to raise your game in a convenient, gut-friendly capsule. And my new sponsor, Michael Mason of the Mason Survival Protocol. Links for my former shows are in the show notes below. Thanks for watching. Welcome to the Straight Talk Mind and Muscle podcast. Welcome to my guest all the way from, well, the USA, but I know where he is right now. I don't know if you want to say, but you're up at 3:30 in the morning. Tim Stout, thank you so much for coming on.
Appreciate you, Damien. I appreciate you having me.
Hey, you're a true gentleman. I love what you're doing with on social media, teaching. You know, you're a teacher, and I love that. But I wanted to, just as we were saying off camera there, I wanted to start the show off for people describing where you But we see you on social media in a 10-second clip, a 30-second clip, and doing awesome stuff. But there's so much more to you. So I'm going to go through your background. You sent me through your professional fighting background, then business. Tell us what got you into martial arts, if that's what you did, or fighting, and then into the professional side of that, because that is the peak of combat sports, I think.
I agree with you. I started karate probably like at 7. Most other kids playing little league and football, and I played it, but it wasn't for me. Got into karate, did that for several years, won a lot of tournaments, and really enjoyed it. But it wasn't fair for me because I was a very little kid.
Mm.
You fought by age groups. So I couldn't help. I was fighting a kid that was 5'10" and 140 pounds when I weighed 90 pounds. So I did that for a while, and then I would get in trouble for being too aggressive. Because in my mind, if I was hitting, you was hitting, we were supposed to hit each other half strength, and you were twice my size, I could hit you full strength, and it'd be even. The math didn't math. So I started boxing, and it wasn't long after that I was winning Golden Gloves tournaments, and I was doing really well at boxing. And I dieted to stay about 106, 112. I fought a junior flyweight. And, by the time I was 18, 19, winning a lot of tournaments, it got a little, not boring, but cutting weight was horrible. Like I'm done eating salads. So I started lifting weights and powerlifting. And, 3 or 4 years, I'd put on a lot of muscle and I was strong. And the tough man tournament started coming around town. And I'm not sure if you're familiar, but it's like anybody who thought they were tough, they would put them in a boxing ring and let them fight
Wow.
for boxing rules. And I won a dozen of those. Just I'm fighting people with no training at all, just boxers or bouncers, and people who thought they were badasses. And I was sharply skilled, so we did that for a while. And then finally, they're like, "Tim, you got to quit fighting in these. People backing out, or somebody's gonna get hurt, or whatever."
Yeah.
So people kept telling me about this guy named Casey Oxendine is in the city next to me. It does jujitsu. So I showed up there to do jujitsu, and I thought jujitsu was just some type of karate or taekwondo or something. Because I show up, this little nerdy guy, weighed about 145 pounds, about 5'7", opened the door and was in there talking, and he could tell like real fast, like I was super respectful because that's who I am as a person, but
Mm.
he could tell I didn't believe in what he was doing.
Yeah, of
And
course.
I mean, he's like, let's go a little bit. Like I was like, go. I was like, I go with these, and he goes, that's good, that's fine. And he like just takes me down and arm bars me repeatedly. And I'm like, this is what I want to do. So jujitsu training started, and shortly after that, we're doing Thai boxing, tying it in with my boxing background. Uh, Went pro, had 26 pro fights. Then I got married. I had a couple fights after that, but my urge to want to like compete at that level like really diminished.
And your
And
pro fights, Tim, were in which federation? What was your pro fighting in?
the last fight I had was in Strikeforce. It was before Strikeforce got balled up. I was actually in the first nationally televised fight in the country that wasn't a pay-per-view.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I
So
fought Jason Miller.
that's MMA for the listeners.
Yeah, yeah. I had a few kickboxing pro fights too, but yeah, it's primarily MMA.
Yeah.
I was still more of a brawler, so the it worked much better. And I was a very technical brawler, but I was very aggressive. And we from there we opened an MMA gym probably 3 or 4 years before that. And so I was really pouring into that. And I wanted to get into sales once I was done with fighting because my elbows, that's as far as they'll be, and that's as far as they
Oh,
straighten.
oh
I can't
no.
defend choke. So it gets rough, from boxing and powerlifting and just abusing my body. I treated it like a 1984 Toyota, just off road all the time. So it was rough. And I wanted to be in sales because I wanted to get paid for what I did, not what I'm supposed to do. Because I work beside people in other jobs, and I got paid $20 an hour. He got paid $20 an hour, but it's in my DNA to show up early, stay late, put in effort, and do the best I can. My dad did it. It's just what I was always taught to do. And so I wanted to get paid for what I was supposed to do. And me and my wife talked about sales, and we had zero money. Like it was no money. And we had the gym going, but it was me and her was there for 12, 14 hours a day to get it going. Like she was teaching classes and cutting hair. She was a hairdresser. I was doing personal training as a professional fighter and teaching. It was a full-time gig. And I wanted to be in sales, didn't know what I wanted to do. And there was a couple agents who come into one of my cardio kickboxing classes. And within a few minutes, it was like they quit because it was hard, not because they were exhausted or couldn't do it. And I'm like, and they were what I thought was successful. I mean,
And when you say agents, Tim, you mean real estate
realtors.
agents?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Realtors. They dressed nice. They smelled nice. They had nice cars. Everything that I thought success was. I remember texting my wife on my BlackBerry, and I'm like, I'm going to sell real estate. And she goes, "Do you think you can?" I was like, I don't know, but I said, I'll outwork them. And she's like, "You'll definitely do that." And we had to get a title pawn to get started with that. So we pawned her car title, got my real estate license, and I've been crushing it. I mean, some years average agent sells, last year, majority of all agents didn't sell any homes. And I think I sold like 50 some. My team was almost 300 and some. So
Wow.
it's like the work ethic and just crush it. So
Wow.
that thing really played a big role into that because you from fighting, you learn, as you know, from what you do, you don't have to be the most skilled. You just have to be the guy who never gives up.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. That's literally what they teach us in the forces. You keep going and often that causes you to win.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm so happy that you went that way with the real estate. There was many reasons I want to get you on the show, and that was one of them because in my mind you're successful. You were a professional fighter. That's at 7 years old. You started a combat sport, karate. You went on to become a boxer and jujitsu and so on. But you're at the pinnacle. But hang on a sec, that doesn't really make you set for life. It's not like you're Conor McGregor, for instance, the one guy who gets the massive check. But what a clever transition, and that's what I'd like to explore. And maybe we'll go back to the fighting side of things. You got a gym, you're teaching what you obviously love and or are good at, either way. But then you realized, hang on a sec, this isn't going to do it. I've got to do something else. It was completely different. What gave you the self reflection to put your ego aside and actually go a different way instead of saying, "Hey, beating my chest, I'm the fighter. I should be able to get going really good here." What gave you the self reflection and I guess lack of ego to do that?
I don't have a big ego. I'm a very confident person. Like if we're head to head, like I'll fight anybody. Like somebody rounded that corner that was 7'4", 400 pounds, and they were threatening me or my wife. Like there would be no fear. There'd be nothing. Even if I knew I was going to get it, like it's just that's not a part of my job. I tell people all the time, like, "Were you scared you're going to lose?" And I'm like, when I fight, my job is not to lose. My job is not to win. My job is to hurt you. And if I can hurt you and lose, that's a win in my book. And that's how I went out. I fought in the street a lot because I did a lot of security stuff and I was a roughneck. So, I did that. And it's the same principle. But with real estate, it was no ego. It was just like I had to provide for my family. It was like I had a big eye waking moment one night, and my wife had woke me up. She was going through her jewelry drawer to sell jewelry so we could pay rent and buy groceries.
Wow.
No more. I was like, it's that, and that was the catalyst that switched me from quit chasing the dream and start providing.
Yeah.
And what happened.
Yeah. Gosh, thank you for being so clear and concise on that as well, Tim. Uh, my background before the forces was bodybuilding, Mr. New Zealand, all that fancy stuff. But it's such a selfish sport, bodybuilding itself. And sport in itself is relatively selfish. It's great to have a partner that can support you, but what a clever transition in your brain to go and provide for your family outside of what you had practiced for so long. That's amazing. I guess then it begs the question for me. Now you've popped up on Instagram and you're very good at what you do. You teach well and you explain it so well. So what's going on there? You've got the real estate side of things, but you've also got your, I'm assuming, gym, dojo, and teaching. What's the story there?
Okay. The gym was our first business. I think it's been open for 17 years. And I'm probably in real estate. I was selling my third or fourth year in real estate. I sold like 40 some houses and I couldn't work past 4 o'clock because I had to go and manage the gym and run the gym. But it was costing me money every second I was there because, the money between real estate and somebody paying, $100 a month is a big difference. And so I'd partnered with a guy I trained before. He's a champion black belt jiu-jitsu guy at the time. He come in and he started running the business, and I still teach. I teach Tuesday and Wednesday mornings. Tuesday I do for like a kickboxing, but it's more of like a shoot boxing style. Like we learn to kickbox, but we also defend the takedowns, and we do the quick fighting on the ground. We don't want to lay on the ground because it's more self-defense based. Because it's jiu-jitsu is great, but I mean, if you take one of my buddies down, jiu-jitsu is not great anymore because I'm going to punch you in the face. So I teach like true life stuff, like my videos, and Wednesdays I train all the local police officers. I've trained police. I'm post certified, which in the States allows me to give the police officers credit, uh, continuing education credit to train them. So I do a lot of that. And but with the videos, like I started those during COVID, uh, because we never shut down during COVID. Like, we train at 6 a.m. and a bunch of us is like, hey man, like I cannot do this. Like if we get sick, we get sick. And I'm like, if you're good with it, I'm good with it. So we all showed up. We 20, 30 deep, and we train every morning. And I started doing these videos because it was just the stuff I would see online was horrible. And it's like, I mean, these guys with like these pressure points and this weak system stuff. And I'm just like, I'm just going to get straight to the point. And I get a lot of flack. Like some people still believe that like Steven Seagal and these actors are legit people, like fighters. And it's like, no, it's quit making it look pretty and start being effective. And that's sort of what I started doing. And it catches on like people like yourself who understand what a true combat is. They realize the importance and how effective it is. And I teach it. I think my specialty is I teach it to where a fifth grader could understand it. I don't make it overcomplicated.
Yeah, and that's the key. And again, it's what attracted me with your videos, Tim, is the communication. I remember years ago, my partner at the time, we talked about communication. You can deliver anything if you do it right. And maybe Donald Trump is the classic example. His communication is interesting because his delivery is terrible, but his message is correct, but nobody listens to the message.
It's better this time around than last time.
Yeah, it is a little bit. He's an interesting cat. I'll try to stay out of politics on a show, but your communication is spot on. And what you also give is options. You're not this is the only way. You can also do it this and this way, which you've obviously got from your background in boxing, karate, and the other things. Interesting that you've trained police. We had Jiu-Jitsu 5.0 on the show. Jason Swartz, I believe his name is, from a year or two ago. Greg Thompson, who trains Delta and those guys. Policing, I was a cop here before what I do now. Policing is very different. I believe personally, every police officer should learn jiu-jitsu or combat jiu-jitsu or some form of control and restraint like you're teaching them. But you know what they miss, in my opinion, and I've had some come to me, is they also miss self-defense because they can't make the difference in their mind. A lot of them here, drawing a weapon isn't something that happens every day. They go from control and restraint to putting handcuffs on, and I know I'm preaching to the choir with you, but for the listeners, and then they can't realize when it goes sideways, hang on a sec, this is self-defense for my life or my partner. And that's when that mindset needs to change from their training in the academy to what they can also learn here. Is that something you've seen? What have you seen with police when you're training them?
When I was talking to the sheriff to start it, because it's just called police jujitsu and it's free for, I teach federal people, I teach states, I teach the Coweta County Sheriff's Department, I teach all of them. And because he was asking me about it, because he's older guy, he probably didn't understand what jujitsu was, and I told him, and he goes, well, I think that may be bad for us, and I'm like, Sheriff, I was like, the more I can teach them, the less they go into their belt. The less
Yes.
they grab their asp, the less they grab their mace, the less they grab their pistol. And I said, the confidence I'm going to create these people. I said, but when it gets aggressive, I said, the second it's aggressive, they're going to have the confidence to go hands on and not have to pull any weapons, not
Yeah.
have to do any of that. And he agreed. Then I had two or three. The first 4 or 5 people who came, I'm talking hard chargers, SWAT team. I'm talking built like brick shit house. I'm talking like some rough ones, and they're still
Yeah.
in there, and they're crushing it. It's been 5 or 6 years of that class, and so it really worked. And now we have a couple. I don't have the participation like I want to locally, but there's a county like right there in South Atlanta, because I'm south of Atlanta. They're South Atlanta, and he makes it mandatory. Like his chief of police, Like his people have to train with me 4 to 5 times a year, or they don't get on the schedule.
Yeah. Good.
It's what I would like to see documented because it's. I mean, if it's me, because those guys come in and like, sometimes they're like, ex-pro football players, and they're some big boys, and not everybody understands jujitsu. And I'm talking about it, and one guy was in there, and he's super respectful. He goes, Coach, he goes, I'm not trying to be that guy, but he goes, we deal with crackheads. We deal with people who are very strong and very fast and very big. He goes, I
Mm.
don't. I said, okay. And then he's a big dude, and I said, are you strong? He goes, I am. I said, are you fast? He goes, I am. I'm like, and the chief knew exactly what I was doing. I said, well, come on out here. So I grabbed him, like 8 seconds, and I got his arm jacked up behind his shoulder. I said, guys, I said, it's not about being big, strong, and fast. It's about being smart.
Yeah.
And so then that at that point, everybody's like, okay, we will learn. So it took me doing that for them to realize that it was not, karate punching in the air stuff.
Which, in me being a police officer, when you train at the academy and then you go on and do your 1 year recall every year, it is about an aspect in an X way and a little bit of karate stuff of some kind, and it's just based on sports. Whereas what you're doing is based on what works, which is combat sports, wrestling and jiu-jitsu and whatever words you want to call it. You're restraining those people with the correct stuff rather than a sport put on it. Yeah, I've got down here in my notes, police, self-defense, and sport, and there's a difference between all those things. Um, I'll never forget one detective that I trained. She came to me for self-defense because she found herself in a situation. Again, this is for the listeners more than you, Tim. Uh, Her big fat male partner, and I have to say that because that's what got him in trouble. They were dealing with two offenders. Well, somehow the big fat male partner didn't use his words right, and he's amped the aggressor up, and they're rolling around on the ground. That aggressor or offender was on top of her big fat female partner, and she didn't know what to do. The reason she didn't know what to do, remember the other guy's outstanding as well. The other guy's just over there, because over here they say head and neck restraints are not allowed, but they're not allowed for arresting. That's totally correct. What she hadn't realized in her brain, she hadn't realized, hang on a sec, this is now life, it's life and death for him or her or both, because he's on top of that guy, they can get his gun. So that's immediately turned into self-defense of yourself or another. And that was a switch that they found it quite difficult to change in their brain.
100%. And it's the same thing for I do twice a year. It's usually July and January. I'll do a series called Jiu-Jitsu for the Streets, because we are a jiu-jitsu gym. We have kickboxers, we got pro MMA fighters, like we've got the whole gambit. But like my partner, Professor Chris, is like, he's a great jiu-jitsu instructor. Like he's probably one of the best jiu-jitsu instructors. You feel better every time you're there. He makes you feel special. You learn, like he's great all the way around. But the first time I come in, I was like, hey guys, I said, because everybody doing jujitsu and they're wanting to work on the bottom. And I'm like, okay, I said, jujitsu for the streets. And they're like, well, what is it? And I said, well, so we're going to work, open hand smacks from the feet to takedowns. And I said, then we can do it on the ground. And I'm taking these big higher level guys, and they're shelling up and turning away from me. And
Yeah.
I'm not smacking them hard either. And I'm like, guys, if I close my fist, I said, your teeth fall out.
Yeah.
And what you don't have to realize, I don't have to stop hitting you. There's nobody here that can make me stop hitting you. You'll die. Or
Yeah.
when I grab the choke, this doesn't let it go no more.
Yeah.
Like you've got to be, and everybody's eyes were this big by the time of it. And so that's one of those popular classes we teach now. Like everybody comes to that one just because it's like, I think they realized it. Like
And
they need that.
that's really why I'm enjoying having you on, is the reality of it. You've got your awesome sport skills, but bringing in the reality of it, and you've proven it more and more with what you've been saying, with what you're teaching, especially the street jiu-jitsu, and then even more so when that guy on the bottom, if you were lucky enough to be on top, he starts pulling steel of some kind. It's a game changer, or even one of these, even plastic is going to do the job for a little bit.
Some man knows how to work it. It does. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it changes real quick. So, I guess then, where are you? Your gym? What's it called, and where's it based? And what do you said you're primarily teaching jiu-jitsu there, but just for the listeners that are over your way, tell us more about that so we can get people in there.
Okay. It's in Noonan, Georgia. So it's probably 45 minutes south of Atlanta. It's called Independent MMA and Fitness. and we have, we have boxing classes, kickboxing classes, cardio kickboxing classes, strength and conditioning, jujitsu, no-gi, MMA, and then the mornings at 6 a.m. classes. Those are the good classes. I teach half of them. My professor Chris teaches the other half of them. So it's a basically a collection of 20 to 30, 35 to 55-year-old men, and
Yeah.
they're able to train hard, but with the intentions of learning, not hurting. And it's a good group because as we age, like our training has to adjust, but our
Mm.
mind doesn't. In my
Yeah.
mind, I'm 25-year-old, and if you get and I hurt every time I'm injured, it's because somebody comes in that's trained, that's aggressive, and I have to cool them down, and I'll cool them down, but I'm injured, like I'm walking like this for 2 weeks, so my brain don't realize I'm not 25 anymore. My body understands it pretty high level, but we have a good group, and it's good training. We don't let any hotheads, no assholes. Like it's a good group.
I find so I've never done jiu-jitsu. I do combat that we taught in the special forces for what I teach and what I practice. And I purposely also did that. I was doing boxing for some time, but a Commonwealth boxer, I asked him the question. I said, what do you think I'd do on the day? He said, well, whichever one you practice more. So I made a point of not practicing hitting people with my knuckles and a point of breaking their legs a lot more. But my boy's been doing jiu-jitsu since he was about 5 or 6 years old. And it's beautiful for the kids because confrontation is just another thing. It's just there's no emotion in it, and the respect is there. And I'm sure if it was, and I've seen it passed outside of the jiu-jitsu gym, confrontation, the tears don't come because it's not a shock. It's just another thing. So I love the respect of jiu-jitsu. Love the skill level, how people teach, but then also someone like yourself putting the realistic filter on it, going, okay, that's for the dojo there, and then this is what we're going to do outside of that. So I guess then with that question, you started karate at 7 years old because you're a little guy, paraphrasing what you said, and so was I. And went on to something brilliant, which was boxing. Boxing skill just blows my brain away. They're phenomenal. But going back and looking at it from your professional career, what would you give advice to for parents of, say, 10, 11, 12-year-olds, males and females? What would you suggest they have a look at for self-defense is going to help them in the future? Now, they don't want to be BJJ championships, but just something that's going to help them through the tough teenage years and tough teenage years at school. And then maybe they're 25 years old later. We don't want our kids to die at 25 because they're still our kids. If they're in a situation, what do you think, Tim, given your experience, is a good self-defense thing for them to take on board?
I get asked this a whole lot of people because people assume because there's not a whole lot of jiu-jitsu black belts out there, and I'm one of them. So everybody's like, Coach Tim, the presser, whatever they're saying. Why should I put my kid in? And even my nephews, they come through this and they're like, should we do jiu-jitsu? I'm like, no, you should do boxing. And for several reasons. One, society is weakening. The person who has the confidence and can get hit in the head and have the wherewithal to keep going, moving forward, they're going to dominate the world, first of all. But the jiu-jitsu guys like to say, and I'm a jiu-jitsu guy, but they love to say, well, 90% of fights end up on the ground. I'm like 100% of them start on the feet.
Yes.
So it's in fights, you need most fights, or they're within reaching distance when they start. It's not like we come out and touch gloves when we fight. They're within reaching distance. I think everybody needs probably a year of boxing, and I'm talking about boxing, not like getting in there and like feeling it, because boxing is not, top boxers, they train light as far as sparring. They don't hit each other hard. They flow really well. Boxers do not understand that, and they bang. So I think you need to understand that. You need to get hit. You need to hit people. You need to get knocked down. You need to get back up. You need to realize the range. And then I think jujitsu or wrestling. I think that's crucial. People underestimate wrestling. I think wrestling is probably the most dominant martial art in the world, and
Mm.
you don't realize it until you grab a good wrestler. And I'm not a wrestler by no means, but I fought a lot of them because nobody wanted to stand on the feet with me. And because you have two aspects of fighting, you have grappling and you have striking, and wrestling is the glue. It doesn't matter if you were, say, you were a 500-time national kickboxing champion, and I had 1 year of jujitsu, but I had a higher level of wrestling than you, and I could close the distance and get you down. I win. Or if you're a world champion jiu-jitsu guy, but I wrestled in middle school, it's going to be hard for you to get me the ground.
Oh yeah.
So that is the glue that holds it together. And for true combat or for sport like MMA and I think wrestling or jujitsu, but if you jujitsu, like not as much for sport issues. Like take the kimono off, no gi. That's what I teach. Shorts and t-shirt, and just and try to get on top and work it from there.
That's a great question, and I would suggest, sorry, great answer, sorry. I would suggest that it's an answer that not many parents would want to hear. Nobody wants to see their kid get hit in the head, but I think that answer, Tim, epitomizes that's what it takes to be tough, to take that, and not many people. I don't think anybody should have to learn self-defense because in a perfect world it'd be nice, but
Not.
we don't live in a perfect world. You got those crackheads the cops are taking down. The crackhead that broke into my car 2 months ago that I had to lock up. Haven't been a cop for 15 years. It's not a perfect world. Um, Gosh, that's a great answer. I like that. And I tried to fight a wrestler when I was a kid, and gosh, I just ended up in a pretzel. I don't know what I threw a
I've
punch.
been
And I
there.
don't know what happened after that. It didn't connect, and I was eating the ground.
It's funny.
Um, okay, let me look at a follow up for that. Just because I want to pick your brains, because you got exposure to great people there, and people asking those questions. What then? They haven't been through that. They're now 25, 30, 35 years old. Maybe the women coming to you going, hey, I've seen your cool stuff. It's really great. What's something I can do? So without their skills, the boxing skills and the jiu-jitsu skills, let's talk about self-defense. What would you suggest would be two of the most important things? We can't go back and train them for a year. So right now, person's going to leave their house or leave their office or whatever's going on, or in Vegas, they're going out in the street. What are the two of the most important things someone should know? And also throw in carry, if you want to throw that in, for self-defense themselves. A real bad guy comes in, not an ego fight, because we can walk away from most of those. But a bad thing happens, an ambush from behind on a female, or some crazy guys there, and you're a male. What are a couple of things that someone should know for self-defense, in your opinion?
I think I'm a big preacher of if I know it's going to get violent, I'm not letting the fight come to me 100%.
Right on.
When if you say me and you are out and somebody comes up and they're have intentions of fighting me,
Mm-hmm.
the second they're in reaching distance, they become a threat, and I will deal with the threat accordingly
Mm-hmm.
as quick as I can. That's one. Like, don't
Yeah.
wait for the fight. Like this whole punch me first mentality. If you do that with somebody like me, you're there's going to be no fight. I'm going to hit you and you're going to be done.
Mm.
And to touch on what you were saying, the walk away crowd, I get a lot of that. I'll just walk away, and I'm like, if I'm fighting you, you don't get that opportunity. I'm faster than you. I will run you down. Like you're
Mm.
not getting away from me if I decide to fight. Fighting is not a two-way street. Fighting is a one-way street. Somebody gets run over.
Yes.
And to explain that to people. But one, if it's going to get violent, go hard, go fast. Two, it's not about playing nice. You attack the eyes, attack the throat, kick the groin, stomp the knees. My job is to eliminate a threat to allow me to live an extra day. And if you are the aggressor to me, my job is to eliminate that threat at any way possible. And I carry all the time. Like I'm in South, the south of the United States. Like in my vehicle, I have a Glock, a Sig, and a 300 blackout in it at all times, and I always have knives. It's just, and I hope never ever have to use any of that. But I'm not going to be in a situation where I'm like, I wish I'd packed that gun today. It's just worst case scenario at all times, and it's not doom and gloom, but it's what if I'm out with my wife and some situation happens and I have to be able to protect her, and now I can't. Like that's a non-negotiable for me.
This show won't come out for a few weeks, but I just published Bill Fahey. I normally interview the top people in the world of what they do, and I suggest that you're one of those, which is phenomenal. And we had Tony Blair on, as I said, other top people in that genre. But Bill Fahey is just a regular guy, and we talk on Instagram, and he's been helping me out a little bit with some web stuff. Nice guy. He's also a firearms instructor, and he carries. And he reached out to me in November last year Oh my God, Damien, this just happened. I feel so dumb, but I feel I need to tell you. Long story short, he went to a storage unit. I'm just popping down for 20 minutes, he told his wife. So he didn't take his tool um,
Yeah.
with him. And he got there and there was a nice girl in a sundress there, really weird, another person. It was a come on, it was a honeypot trap. And somehow he just glimpsed the bad guy come around the corner. But long story short, it's a really great show. It's a really interesting show, him telling this story. The one time he didn't have it, he needed it. And he was just very lucky he managed to be quick enough to get on top of it. But yeah, you are always better to have it and not need it and hopefully never have to use it. But gosh, that was a perfect example of that exact situation.
And one thing to do, I run with the SWAT team where I'm at, and a lot of firearms instructors are in my group, and I shoot well. I'm not what they are. Like they are probably like you. I mean, that is your tool. Like
Yeah.
these are my tools.
Yes.
Yeah, and it is super effective. And I think the biggest mistake, because me and one of my buddies, we teach like a full day course. I teach like 3 hours of hand to hand. He teaches like 5 hours, 4 to 5 hours of basic pistol training, running, shooting,
Beautiful.
all basics. And we do that for the public. But one thing I tell a lot of women, because I'll start telling about pushing the eyes in, like that's rough. Like, I don't do that. But then they're carrying a pistol, and like I tell them, I said two things. If I see the pistol, I was like, you have no intentions. I was like, by
Yeah.
the time I know it's a pistol, I need to hear bangs.
Yeah.
And I said, and if you have no intention to use it, never ever let me see it. I said, because that becomes my pistol real fast.
Well, we're really getting to the crux of it, which is I purposely don't do too much background on a guest because I love to get to know it in the show, and that's where we're getting to now. Let's go back a little bit and come back to that. You talked eyes, throat, groin, knees. I don't hear many martial artists. I know you're not really one, but don't have many people say that because that's what's required. Those are four places that are unprotected by bone, muscle, or fat, and they will eliminate a human's ability to fight, or at least see, or at least breathe. And then you talked about, a pistol. I, in my workshops and in my courses, and they're different lengths, an hour or so on, I purposely have to, knowing from special forces what we do is we kill other humans to protect others. My job was hostage rescue. Um, you have to be able to switch off that natural and normal human instinct not to hurt or kill another human. Again, I'm preaching the choir with you, Tim. But if you don't switch that off, they'll go away and they won't have done it. So I do a nice little eye gouge drill. It's fun, and we get to it, and there'll be a facial and a nose job beforehand before they get to the eyes, and finally get to the eyes. And you see the horrible look on their face, but they can do it. But you brought up a great point that I already know, but don't consider lots. If they haven't practiced on what we practice on is photos, we practice on photographs of terrorists. If you haven't practiced like in police on a Pentagon, you're not going to do it on the day. And Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman, albeit he's totally full of shit on a bunch of things. I've spoken about that with Andy Stumpf, SEAL Team 6 guy, and I had him on the show. Some of the stuff he says was correct, and one of them was that back in the American Civil War, you'd find rifles with 7 balls out the barrel. You'd find many, many cases of soldiers not being able to pull a trigger on a human until they turn their back and there's no longer a face. So you're getting those ladies to eye gouge, which is great, but gosh, they've got to practice putting lead into a photograph or at least a silhouette. We have FBI silhouettes because they won't do that on the day. And you nailed it, saying, if I see that gun, if I don't feel lead in me, then that's not going to be your gun anymore.
Yeah. And if they already have bad intentions, they will use it.
Gosh, I'm stunned that we've gone there because that was such an eye opener and such a reality check. These people that train on those targets have got to do it for real, and that's why we do simulations in police and simulations in military, so that we then do it on the day. Even in first aid, we do it on a dummy, don't we? On the CPR dummy.
I've shot my entire life, and there's a training that happens in my town, and it's called Man Tracker. It's one of the biggest training in North America, and it happens in my little small town. So once a year, you'll see 50 different organizations, cop cars that come through our area. And because I train them, they allow me like do classes if I choose to. This year I was going to do the sniper class and completely missed it. I was busy at work, but so I hate that. But my buddy who was he was, he was high up in there and he was talking about doing the classes. And I said, which one do you want me to think I should do? He said, you should do the concealed carry course, because he named the guy who taught it. And it was like a higher up guy. And I'm like, man, I've been concealed carrying my whole life. He goes, telling you should do the class. I'm like, okay. So I signed up for the concealed carry class. And there's like 40 people in there. And I'm probably top 5 shooters in there after we were done. And which is embarrassing for people who do that for a living. Not that I'm that good. So, and he saw me coming and he goes, you, Tim, he could see my ears. And he's like, he knew, because I was the only non-police there. So he tell I wasn't a policeman. And I'm like, I am. He goes, he's starting to aggravate me, mess with me. Cause I go back and forth, with people pretty well. And, he said, you carry all the time? I said, yeah. And he stepped right up in my face. I mean, he was this close. He goes, what are you going to do now? And I'm thinking, like, I guess we're going hands on, like in my mind.
Yeah.
And we drilled for 2 hours, like palm strike and just shooting from the hip.
Yes.
And it's something I have never thought about in my life. And I'm like, how would I shoot somebody that close
Yeah.
until it happened? And I'm like, and I've carried a gun for a decade and did never, ever thought of that situation. But now I've trained it and I would perform if I had to.
It's another file in Tim's brain of things he can access if and when required.
Absolutely. Because I've done it over and over and over.
Exactly. And that's what you and I do with the videos. We're just putting files out there. And I get messages each week about them, not members, they don't pay me. They just see the Instagram stuff about how I helped them. Yeah, so when you say big gunfights, that's like literally what happened from the World War II days with William Fairbairn and Sykes. Their gunfights in Shanghai were at 4 to 6 yards, all of them with a pistol, and that's super close. And there's no bringing up to your eye. It'd be from here, and then you may be able to get out to there. But they're super close because that's the reality of a gunfight.
Yeah, you better have a couple pulled off while you're extending too, because
exactly.
It's a different game. Shooting paper targets and then actually shooting even a drill. I've never had to shoot nobody, thank goodness. Hope I never do. But even like live drills, that is 100x more difficult than shooting paper targets.
Oh yeah.
And I can imagine it would be another 1000x to have to like at real things.
The two-way range. Two-way range. Just going back, because I do take notes, and I get what you're saying a lot of the time, but I want to make sure I always emphasize things for the listeners. You talked about boxing and wrestling really being the two. That's Tim saying it in a theory, but Pat McNamara, a friend of mine, great guy, Delta Force guy, and Delta Force Sergeant Major, he did exactly that, Tim. He had and this is well known, and he's spoken about publicly. I think he might have spoken about my show. He was bullied by his older brother. His older brother went to prison, so his older brother's a badass. And when I say bullied, I mean beaten the crap out of in North Carolina. Eventually, his brother was getting out of jail one day. And how about this? This is literally, I think I taught this the other day. What do you do when you're sitting on the toilet? Pat had been training boxing and wrestling. And he was on the toilet one day, number 2s, pants down around the ankles. And his brother comes storming through the house. He's just got out of jail. Where's that? Whatever words he's yelling, and busts through the toilet door. And Pat just puts him down. He goes 1, 2, and then puts him down. And that's what he trained over and over. 1, 2, take the guy down and beat the crap out of him. And of course, the bully never hit him again. And in fact, they're estranged since then. But exactly what you said in theory and from your experience, proven in practical by someone like Pat McNamara.
When my nephews were they were talking about doing something, I'm like, need to put them in boxing. And they're like, okay. And they're not rough kids. Like they grow up like they're upper middle class, like get what they need. Good, well-behaved kids, like great kids. But they're not probably like we grew up. By the time I was in high school, I'd been in 24 street fights. And and then the dad had called me, which is my brother-in-law, and he said, well, they got them in boxing classes, but they don't let them spar until they get this age. He goes, do you still want us to do this for like a year? I was like, they need several sparring matches. I said, they need to know what it's like to get hit in the mouth. And he goes, okay. So he's going to probably extend it a little bit, which I think is phenomenal. Just if you don't know, you always question. One of my students now, he's one of my agents, a good buddy of mine, comes over to my house every Saturday and Sunday, and we lift weights. He's like 6'4", weighs maybe 180 pounds, 170 pounds. Very skinny kid. When I first got a hold of him 3 years ago, he couldn't do a chin up, couldn't bench press more than the bar, couldn't squat more than the bar. I'm talking like
Yeah.
non-athletic. And I'm a kettlebell guy. Like I have a couple kettlebells and chin up bar, and I'll go ham on it. And he keeps up with me. And now we've been sparring, and I say thumping him. I mean, me hitting 30, 40%, a normal person who's never been hit's quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And it knock him down. He gets right back up. And it's just like in a year ago, 2 years ago, he would have figured out some way to stay down. And he doesn't anymore. So it's helped him mentally.
Yeah.
And do you know what that's going to do to him, his business wise? If you can get punched in the mouth and get back up, what's somebody saying no? What's somebody giving you an objection? It's nothing. Like it just, the confidence in life, I think it builds up. People tell me all the time that when I go to a place, like everybody's attracted to me. And I'm not that good looking. I'm not that smart, but I have an energy, it's just of like, I'm confident. I'm like, no matter what happens, I'll have something to do. It may work, it may not, but I'm pretty sure it will in my head. And I think that's the energy that it creates. It's just that confidence. And I think people are highly attracted to that.
I don't disagree at all. And I see it in the unit. You say you're not good looking and so on. The guys in the unit, we got faces like twisted gym shoes, a lot of us, but we walk in a room and everybody's like, whoa, don't mess with that guy. Not because he's thumping his chest. It's like he's not the guy with his head down and acting weird. The confidence is there. Sometimes we can step it up. So really we're given those the death stares, but yeah, it's pure confidence without being ego driven and beating the chest, which is super important. And you're right about attractive from what I've been told. I'm going to come back to the real estate at the end. I got one more question about self-defense there that I was going for, and that was mindset. Really, I think 60 to 70% of what you've said so far in the show when we relate to self-defense or combat is mindset. And I've come to realize I've taught for 24 years now. Gosh, showing the age. I think it actually comes down to mindset. I can prove that a bunch of different ways. In my courses, I teach biting, eye gouging, all that stuff. If it's a female and the guy's giving you trying to get his tongue down your mouth and bite it off. It doesn't take any practice or skill, but it takes a mindset to do that. And if I can change someone's mindset, then they will step up. But what I've seen with you, Tim, and it's the same in me, is you talked about combat being a one-way street. And if someone's showing aggression, you're going to keep going. I've often thought, and I haven't been in a fight. I did arrest someone a while back. It's not a fight. That's different. That's not fighting. You know that.
You have rules. He doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. Even those citizens arrest. But if someone's going to choose to fight me, we're fighting to the death. I'm going to end him to a level of force that's legal to use, or if I'm going down, I'm going to keep going until I'm unconscious or my heart's not beating. But we're not going to get an ego fight. But my point there is we're just going to keep on going until it's finished. And that's what people really have to realize in self-defense. If you're going to get into a combat situation, particularly females, you just go hammer and nails. You become that flailing cat or whatever it is and just go for it until you win. And majority of the time, you'll win with that mindset and attitude.
I would much rather fight. I've said it 1,000 times. I'd much rather fight the highly skilled person that has 1 ounce of quit than the person with no training that has no quit in them. And you're talking about the mindset. When I have a tattoo on my shoulder, it says you can't teach tough. And when I would come in, I could tell if you were going to be. I've had one person that dude does different, and he was a complete athlete, never turned into a fighter, but he did well in mixed martial arts because that was his sport.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like if the first time we spar and I hit you in the mouth, if you turn away or you back away, you don't have it. But if I hit you and you see it, you see people like, and I'm like, oh, this guy's got it. Like I can teach this guy to fight because you can't teach people to fight. I can teach you all the martial arts in the world, but I can't teach you that fight, that what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's not going to be me today. It's very hard to teach that.
Mm.
And it's people have to be regimented with their training, and it has to be what happens. Because I took a guy he wouldn't even get in the boxing ring. I'm like, hey, get in the boxing ring, shadow box, and he goes, Coach, it makes me dizzy to be up that high. I'm like, okay, like
Wow.
put your mouthpiece in, and he goes, it makes me gag to put a mouthpiece in. Like he was like a weak ass kid, but he liked to shoot, and he liked to fish. And then when I first moved to Georgia, that's what I like to do. So I was like, okay, we're gonna hang out. And he ended up being like a really good amateur fighter, but that was his chosen sport. And
Yeah.
I just taught him repetition, repetition, repetition. So that animal instinct didn't have to come out. And and as far as the sport, the animal instinct probably hurt me more than it helped me.
Mm.
Because I mean, I've had, I was 16-10 was my record, and 14 of those were knockouts less than a minute. I had a half dozen less than 30 seconds. Like if you stood in front of me, it was over. But then people learned to get me to the floor. They learned
Yeah.
to ankle off, But so that repetition, it's hard. It's a 100% mindset. It's funny that you say that, because it's I'd rather train a strong-willed guy than the guy with all the talent in the world.
I watched a a self-defense. I'm doing air quotes here for the listeners. Instructor in America, and he worked with Michael Donvito as somewhat, who's been on the show. Great guy, very skilled fellow, Michael Donvito. But this guy was being interviewed, and he said, "Look, if you came to me and you said it had an hour to learn self-defense, I wouldn't teach you. I wouldn't bother." I thought that's disgusting. I've taught an 84-year-old husband with his 81-year-old wife how to palm strike and eye gouge and headbutt, because they can do that. They can't kick someone in the nuts. They can't lift their legs that high. But I can teach them that in 10 minutes. I can teach someone to bite someone's face off in about one, as long as you get their mindset right. And, some of these people had been through some situations. So I thought, what a stuck in his ways skill guy that is, versus, hang on a sec, you can give somebody something that's better. Take that pen, shove it in someone's throat, and shove it in their eyeball, and shove it in their face. And that actually happened on the tarmac of an airport here in Australia 2 months ago. And a little female defeated the big police officer with a pen. It takes no skill. So mindset, I think, is key, and it's been great that you've been talking through that. I guess to circle off, mindset has clearly got you where you are with real estate and success in business, which is great to see as well. So let's figure that out. What's a piece of advice you'd give to someone, because you've got agents who work for you, to get success in real estate and business? What would Tim tell them?
Success in anything is repeatedly doing the small actions that move the needle. People mistakenly think that success is sexy. Success isn't. Like for real estate agents, success is waking up, making your 50 calls a day, going on your appointment a day, writing offers that don't get accepted. That's what success is. Anything. It's the martial arts. It's getting up and throwing the same punch thousands of times. No matter what we do, it's the repetitive actions of the things that move the needle. And you just got to figure out what moves the needle. With real estate, it's getting people on the phone, it's doing social media posts, and it's getting people face to face. That's it. Everything funnels to getting people face to face. The better you can do it, because every salesman I ever trained, they always tell me that, well, if I can get in front of them, I can close them. I was like, that's human nature. That's a much easier way to build rapport. I was like, can you get in front of them? That's the skill you need to learn. And but that's the one that's not sexy. Nobody wants to hammer the phones.
That is a great answer. I can only go from my example. I think I've had 6 viral videos. The latest one, 2 weeks ago, 2.5 million views. Not one sale, because nobody's face to face. Face to face, you and I talk. I'll talk with people in the workshop. It's the best thing they've ever done. They've get all this value out of it. Great stuff. But yeah, you got to get in front of them. So what a phenomenal way, making those 50 calls, doing those small things. That's the key to success. Literally the basics. Tim, it's just been amazing speaking to you, and I mean that you've got so much gold there, and it's just us talking, and we don't. Often my guests, like, we're from the same genre, we don't realize how much gold is there that the listeners are getting. But I've tried to reinforce that so much, and I'll do that with the show notes. Where is the best place? It'll be in the show notes right at the start. It's narrated. But what are the websites to people to go to, Instagrams to go to find out about you for either the combat stuff, the police stuff, the jiu-jitsu, or the real estate?
Instagram, my self defense website is the MOAB Stout. Facebook is just it's Tim Stout, and that's Facebook. I got a big following on Facebook. I've got like 400 and some thousand followers, and
Wow.
it's probably half from real estate and half from Instagram. My Instagram, I think I've got 120, maybe 140. It's pretty good. And then the Tim Stout is just my real estate content on Instagram. Got a pretty big YouTube following. I had 1.5 million followers on TikTok, but then they decided it was violent all of a sudden. Just all of a sudden, I get they took it off, and I'm just like, I've been doing this for years, and all of a sudden you think it's violent.
Wow.
So lost that, but I've still got the big followings everywhere else.
Awesome. Awesome. And is there a website to jump on?
Independent MMA Noonan is
Yep.
the one for the gym, but I don't have a personal website. I just do the martial arts classes. I don't have a system or anything I'm selling yet. So I
Yep.
eventually want an app that people could like just see. What I want to do is do like, cause like I get a lot of the viral videos just like you, but you can, what I want to do is have like the minute clips and then channel them, the ones who like it and want to see more. Then I do a 5 to 10 minute explanation video.
Right.
Want to do something like that eventually, but
That's cool.
I have very little time right now.
You sound busy, like busy. You've always been busy from what I've figured. And real estate, is there a website there or they just get on Facebook?
Real estate, I think real estate, the real estate blackbelt.com.
Okay. Thank you. I'll put that in. Um, awesome. Absolutely phenomenal information. And it's funny because I didn't know you did real estate until we replied on and back and forth on email, which was cool. Funny, I was thinking the other day, what's my boy going to do? Is he going to go and become an engineer or do university? And I thought, hang on a sec. Everybody has to buy a house at some stage and everybody has to sell a house to them. Why is real estate not one of the most wanted jobs in the world? Because you're always going to have it. People say always invest in real estate. So why wouldn't you be the one to sell it?
And it's hard. And the more you sell, the more you end up buying. Like I have a portfolio of like 41 houses and 2 office buildings. And the more you sell, the more you realize how important it is. Because selling real estate is you're working for tips. You're working for 2.5 and 3%. But when you own it, especially like this year, like I flipped 25 houses this year,
Wow.
and I did it none of my own money. And it's just, you partner with people who have money, but they don't have the deals, they don't have the ideas, they don't know how to get it done. So I take their money, do it, pay them a little bit, and I make a lot. And it's just like, and they sign up for it. Like they're now people beating my doors down, like, hey, I've got some money because they'll make double-digit returns, and you can't do that anywhere now. So it's crazy. So I would definitely push him to get into real estate if he's a hustler, and I would push him to real estate. And it's just have him follow my stuff, and he could redo my videos there for for Australian real estate, and it'll still be relative somewhat.
Well, I'll get my 9-year-old onto that. And you've given,
It'll be a
hopefully,
beast
us.
in 10 years.
We're coming to the States in the mid-June to go and visit all the team and some of the lads. So hopefully we've got another person to come and visit over in Georgia. I've been to Atlanta that way. It's really nice.
Nice. Now, if you do make it, Atlanta, let me know.
I will. It'd be great. Tim, like I said, phenomenal having you on the show. Hopefully the listeners got some value out of this. I have, and some really great insights. And congratulations. I must say that from where you've come from to where you are, it's great to see success. And thank you for sharing it with the show and also on the socials.
Appreciate that very much.
Cool, man. I'll hit pause. We have a quick chat. Thanks for your time.
Awesome.
Hi, thanks for watching. I'm Damien Porter, former New Zealand Special Forces operator and former Australian police officer, and your podcast host. Please check out my new project at hownottodieguy.com, where I teach everything you need to know to both males and females, at-risk populations, schools, kids, and the elderly for self-defense, situation awareness, and all-round skills that every good person should know. Thanks for watching.